everyone, I'm Eszter Vajda, and welcome to Hometown Talents and Treasures. Our guest is Michelle Corey. For the past 20 years, Michelle has been helping people achieve optimum health and beauty in the Merrimack Valley and beyond. She was the owner of Beauty Solutions in Andover for over a decade. Now she owns Boston Biofeedback. Through the years, Michelle has evolved from helping people on the outside to helping them find inner balance, health, and beauty on the inside. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so
Thanks.
Biofeedback. A lot of people have never heard of that. Let's start with some definitions. What is biofeedback?
Okay, so it is, biofeedback is known as a self-regulating tool. So typically, my device particular is not a traditional neurofeedback device is what you'd think of. But that's what biofeedback is, though. Even mine is a self-regulating tool. So it runs with electromagnetic frequencies, and it actually.
What does it measure?
It measures. It's working on galvanic skin response, so it's measuring the moisture of the skin in the body. It works the similar as a lie detector test. So this is how it comes up with helping you to measure what is stressing you in your body, whether it's an organ, if your lungs are impaired, or if it's, it also has the ability to measure your emotions. So it has many capabilities. So often, I work with stress a lot.
So I've been to see you and have had biofeedback done, and it was fascinating. You know, when you did a reading on me, you could see the colors around me. In fact, one time you said, oh, there must be something wrong with your foot. I see some darkness or some kind of color change there. Once you have that information, what do you do with that?
Well, you help to determine why that's there first and why someone might be holding that. I mean, often, you know, this device is what we call quantum biofeedback. So it is different, yet it is a Class 3 medical device. So I do work with physicians as well as on a different level of intuition. So when I see something like that around you, it tells me that maybe your thoughts are not in the right balance, because it's actually within your aura, which is your invisible field of energy that's around you. It has many, many layers, and often that's an emotional imbalance when I see that.
And you've been helping voluntarily people young and old work on this. You said a lot of stress. What's the primary place you think that stress is coming from?
Well, even young youth has stress today. There's so much to, life is a lot different. So I think the children it's almost like they have a disadvantage with our foods that we have today. You know, they're different than they were 50 years ago.
More processed.
They're processed. They're genetically modified, which is so, in everything. For example, we have, you know, corn, wheat, and soy are the big ones that are, and they're in almost every food our children eat. So technically, they're not really eating the corn and wheat that we had years ago. So their ability to cope with stress is less because of this, because they're slowly building toxins.
Do you think that's one of the reasons for the huge gluten-free and you know, intolerance to some products?
It is, because see, health begins with our digestion. So when your digestion is out of order, then everything else goes from there. So the food they're eating is affecting their digestion. This is why we have so many allergies today. We weren't like this. My kids are in their 30s, and we didn't run into this. The food was purer. We didn't have, you know, we were just really beginning. You could still buy raw milk in the 70s and 80s. Well, you can't, now it's illegal in some states. So,
yeah.
And once you begin all that processing and pasteurizing and homogenizing, the body can't break it down. Its ability to digest it is not there. So the children have developed sensitivities, and the wheat, it's too processed, and it's missing the element to digest it, is what it is.
And I know this can be a big stressor, you know.
Yes.
Everyone is tied to this. And I know you said to me that there's definitely some kind of vibrations or something is emitted from this that can cause stress. And I sleep with this by my bedside.
No, you should not.
And then you told me not to, and I've stopped.
That's right. That's
but
right.
Talk a little bit about the cell phone.
Anything that overloads the cells that is going to eventually, that's why I'm concerned about the children. Like, we actually don't know what these frequencies are doing yet. And they're so, you know, they're getting cell phones at 7. And they're texting them all day. Like, if you're sensitive, and children are sensitive, they're not just little adults. They're so much more affected than we are. Like, the brains, if you took a picture of someone on a cell phone and saw the radioactive frequencies, you can, in an adult, you see some of it, and in a child, you see half the brain. They are so much more affected, and especially, like, what do you think is happening to a woman that's pregnant? And holding that cell phone and talking on the phone, and the lower the battery is, the more it's emitting too. It's working harder to get the frequency to the tower, so it's working harder. So I mean, these children that fall asleep talking on the phone, and everything's wireless today. It's getting worse. It's getting like there's wireless. I had a client come in. The child was actually twitching and twitching from, and I was like, well, what's going on in the room? What changed? I mean, everything from the furniture that has chemicals in it, right, to that's not really wood, or it's preserved so much. The new carpeting, like it's an overload. The wireless security system in the house. Now that's wireless. Wireless is really the big issue. So that the security's wireless, the phones are wireless, the computer's wireless, the TV's wireless. Like there's so much
all
going
these
on.
Electrical things going on.
Yeah, so that between the nutritional deficiencies and the toxins and the stress, those 3 areas will create disease.
Now, let's say a client, or I know you give talks
Yes.
to people. What do you say to them? I mean, in today's world, the reality is you cannot live without one of these. And, you know, like, if you look at organic foods, they're more expensive. So,
they are.
So what are some of the things that you can do to decrease some of these stresses?
Okay, so you have to, I know you have to plan, like you choose the biggest, like if you have to put your money somewhere as an organic, you would put it in the meats, because the meats are they're full of antibiotics, chemicals, preservatives. So organic meat is where I put my money. I happen to be a meat eater. Some people choose not to anymore, but I believe that I need that for my system. So that's where I put my money. You know, and there are certain vegetables that hold more, like strawberries, for example, holds a lot of pesticides. So some fruits you want to.
And washing it doesn't help?
It gets in the little tiny crevices there. So washing it, you know, so if you're going to pick and choose where to spend your money, I would say it's the meat, and then the vegetables that hold the most pesticides. And you know, but food is so costly today; it's hard to do that. But unplug things as far as the frequencies. Unplug them when you go to bed. Unplug. Shut your phone off. Keep it 5 feet away from you. Use a home phone. I know we all, you know, some of us don't even have them anymore.
Exactly.
But if you can, use your home phone. Be wired, be plugged in. That stops a lot of the frequencies. I mean.
Now, something that you talk about often, and I've been to some of your talks, is vibrations. This is sort of a new thing for a lot of people. What are vibrations? How do you pick it up? How do you increase your vibrations?
Okay, so I do have some lectures on, and I work with the youth a lot. I love children. So between the toxins, the nutrition, and I also like to talk about energy, because your thoughts are so powerful, and everything has a frequency. We have a frequency. The table has a frequency, right? What's invisible has a frequency. Some people can see what you can't see, like your aura, for example. But you attract to you, I mean, everyone's heard of The Secret, right? The Secret, the law of attraction is what it is. Well, there's people that I've been listening to for years and years, like Eszter and Jerry Hicks.
Yes.
right?
Yep.
I mean, 25 years ago, they were lecturing
They
on
were, exactly.
the same thing. And Joe Vitale was the original secret man, but you know, it gets whoever, I think The Secret made it come out. And it's not just about positive affirmations. It really is about our frequency. What comes to us and manifests in life is about how we create the vibration for it. So when and often with the youth or anybody, they tend to, it's easier to think it's something outside yourself, besides your thoughts, because a lot often kids have some, you know, some self-esteem or worthiness issues that they start to think, well, I can't do that. So I like to change the perception of that they're building some kind of like a field of intention and a grid outside them, so they can and visualize it and picture where's the bright lights, where are the gray areas, what can you change that you think, because when you know, it's up to us to be a light and you be the light. I mean, the higher vibration we have, the more we help the world, really.
And so how do you increase those vibrations?
Oh, geez.
And how do you lose those? I mean, obviously decrease with nutrition and things like this, but what are some sure ways to keep it up or increase it?
Well, notice your environment is always first. Who you're with, the people you hang around with. Like if I go back to youth because I think primarily, but I mean adults as well. You know when you run into someone and you leave them and you feel really tired and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what happened to me. Mm-hmm. Well, that was not a high vibration. Mm-hmm. You see, so we want to associate with people that elevate you. I mean, this is always what our youth should do, because this is how they stay out of trouble too, because of the kids that are doing good things and thinking good thoughts and staying healthy are raising you up. So environment, noticing people, your own self can bring you down too. Your own negative thoughts are the biggest down.
Yeah, what have they called? Ants, automatic negative thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know
tape
that
recorder,
term.
The tape recorder
yeah,
that goes
they're
in.
just thoughts that come to you like, oh, I can't do that, or I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't. Like, if you can train your mind to, it's really mental training, and get a hold of notice what you're thinking. And if you think it, Eszter Hicks would say, if you, or maybe it's not her, but if you hold a thought for 17 seconds, for example, in that frequency, and stay there, another thought will join it, like it, for 17 seconds.
Wow.
And you hold that.
Probably a negative one.
Any thought, so positive, negative. So, and it's easy to get, we all have bad days, but if you can catch that and turn it and say, oh, no, and just, get in a good place, or read something that's gonna, reading good material, or, so there's many. So the catching your thoughts is huge. You can do that yourself. Foods are important. Whole foods. Foods actually vibrate. So alive foods give us a lot more energy than something that's like cooked to death, but
or nuked.
Or nuked to death. I personally do not own a microwave, but
out of choice.
Yes.
Wow.
I used to have one, but I've changed a lot of my habits over the years.
I'm sure music.
Music is a big thing. If something, and it doesn't have to be, well, heavy metal is usually typically not good for anybody. But like, did you ever see that Dr. Emoto, the water? He wrote the book on how he took pictures of the chemical composition of the water is affected by different environments, right? So it's words. Words are so powerful, and music is too. So he put them in different songs, love songs, ballads, jazz, heavy metal, and they, a heavy metal song will just disperse the water and separate. Wow. So our chemistry, we are made up of 70% water, our bodies. Our brains are more. So if that affects a cell under a microscope, what does it do to us? Right? So this changes our frequency. That's why it's important before bed and before sleep and before getting in that alpha state is so important to keep your vibration up. So if you go to bed with a bad thought in you know, heavy metal music or a violent movie, these are all going to not give you a good, you're not going to wake up in a good mood probably.
And, you know, I think for me personally, being outside, nature certainly makes me feel better. But, you know, people don't have time.
You have to make time. You have to. That's nature's job, is to balance us, to heal us. So if you're in a stressful environment all day, even 10 minutes, I know we have cold weather here too, and it's really hard now, but you know, just on your way to your car even, stall and stop and breathe and look in your environment. That will increase your vibration. It's not that cold.
Why do you think we've gotten this far away from natural foods, from being outside and synthetic this and
Well, I think we have looked for things outside ourselves to make us happy, and I think that contributes to all of it, really. It's what did Henry Thoreau say? The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Yes. So, and I think it's the uncomfortable feeling inside. It's really and this is why I've gone to the meditation and trying to connect with our divine guidance.
Whatever it may be.
Whatever it is, it helps you to have solitude and be serene inside. So we've gotten away, because when you don't have that inside you, you tend to, you're filling a hole that you can't fill. It's an empty hole. So it's more, and it's more running, more doing this, more working. And the more out of balance you get, the more you stay, you know.
What do you say to people who are listening and thinking, you know, this is crazy talk. How is she able to see vibrations? How could people, I don't see anything. How did you develop this feeling? And the other big question, part of this, is that I'm seeing more and more people like you, hearing more and more people like you. Why is there such a resurgence of that, or surge?
Well, I think every so often so many people wake up. Like, you'll find some newbies. I happen to have woken up about 20 years ago. And then you evolve and you grow and you keep searching for that peace, because you do know there is, you know, especially if your life isn't working like it was, you're like, well, I might as well let me go this way, because, right, you run up against a wall so many times, you know there has to be something else. There has to be. And I think maybe we're just hearing more about it.
And you know, one of the other things that I'm sure people are like, what is that? Karma. You talk about karma a lot.
Karma is really the consequences of an action, right? I mean, this was what the Buddhist teachings would say to you, whether it's good or bad. So if you're putting out good energy, you tend to get back goodness. And if you're putting out bad energy or
again,
anger,
the law of attraction.
It's a law of attraction. So if you're holding anger inside you, and you know, it's no surprise that you would be driving and being irritated by everybody you're running into driving, because you're going to run into something similar to you. So if everyone's annoying you today, it's best to look at you.
Them.
It's probably, if more than 2 or 3 people are annoying you, it's probably not them, right?
A good point. It's a good time to just stop and look within yourself. What was it 20 years ago that made you wake up?
What made me wake up 20 years ago? Oh, geez, I had, I went to Mexico, actually, and I ran into many, within a week's time, I ran into so many spiritual communities that was so brand new to me. And they were all just saying, they was talking in Spanish about me, and I didn't realize it. I didn't know what, we call it a channel. So sometimes we can, you know, we're all vessels. We're all vessels here. And energy comes through you and we don't know it. So at that time, I didn't know that until they introduced it to me. I came home and I was searching, and I said, oh, well, then I got attuned to Reiki,
yes,
we call it. So a lot of people have heard of Reiki today.
Yeah.
And so then I got initiated to Reiki 1, Reiki 2. I studied with this man, was actually the last disciple from the original Reiki.
Wow.
Yeah, his name was John Gray. So I studied with him. I got my Reiki masters with him. And so that was the beginning of, and then I had I was a single parent. I was under a high amount of stress, and I just started meditating and it was calming me. And then I got away from it for a couple of years. I mean, because family just thinks you're just strange, and what is she doing? What is she doing now? And it's really a path. I'm actually writing about this for a couple of years, because there is a whole process. There's a process that when one says, oh, they start to think there is something that's going to help them, and there's something else. There's a process to get to what we call self-actualization.
Does everyone have it in them?
Yes. Yes, everyone has. I mean, some people are born gifted, and it tends to go away as they develop in the teens and 20s. But everyone can do this. Everyone can do it. It takes discipline, and it actually takes a lot of courage. Because once you decide this is, oh, I want to do that, your life changes, because it's always, if you didn't know this, you would think, oh, what is happening to me? Why do these things keep happening to me? It's to me, when it's really happening for you. It's for your development.
What a shift that is. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me.
That's right.
It's hard, though, to start thinking that way when things aren't going well, and one thing after another falls through or falls bad during a day, and then it's like, oh,
it is.
Why me?
That's right. And the hardest thing to do is to stay positive and keep that shift in yourself when you're in not a good place. I mean, let's face it, we all have bad cycles in life. It's good and bad. It's really a hard thing to hold and maintain, but that's key. And those, if you can just perceive those cycles as temporary, well, this is just temporary, and the more you can think positive, the shorter those cycles are. Like all of a sudden, it's
like training a muscle.
It's training a muscle. It is. It's thoughts. Yeah.
You had Beauty Solutions in Andover for 10 years, and
13 years.
13 years.
Yes.
13 years. I remember it being downtown Andover, and you helped a lot of people with their outside beauty. Why did you shift, or how did that shift happen? Yeah,
well, I started this path. So the Reiki brought me to a place of of healing, and being more in a healing world and wellness. I always had a nutritional background that I wanted to. I was always healthy, but I didn't. And it's only the last 5 years. I left Beauty Solutions about 9 years ago into a path of wellness, and I got detoured in life.
Life happens.
Life happens. And in the last 5 or 6 years, I ended up, is when I'm more focused on wellness. I got the biofeedback. I'm still in continuing education classes with holistic nutrition. So this gives me a concrete background, I think, to help, but I also, I integrate the energy with it. So I recognize that it's not just the outside external beauty. I used to have a beauty supply store, and I was always ahead of my time, I think, with even products. I stopped buying products 15 years ago that had parabens and chemicals, and I was like, oh, we should stop having toxins. It's like a toxin store, really, when you have beauty supplies. I mean, it's just,
when you think about it,
when you think about it, you're in the middle of toxins. So I started there. I've always been on the health path, and then I sold natural makeup, natural skincare, minerals, more that route. So then, but the true beauty of us is not what we do on the outside. I mean, we can use natural makeup and the best we can, but the radiance that comes from within is really what you're emitting. This is really...
And what's striking for me is that you can affect that. You can change that.
That's right. That's right. Like I think, my opinion is meditation actually keeps you young. I really do. I think it, it de-stresses you, even if it's for 1 minute. You're de-stressing. I think there's more and more studies that actually changes your DNA and your cells.
Yeah, there's scientific studies, I think.
Yeah,
that I've
so this is a way of staying youthful, is meditating and keeping balance, managing stress, keeping us nutritionally up there, making sure we have, we're not nutritionally deficient, and eliminating as many toxins as you can. And this all helps. You can have the best diet in the world, but if you're under stress, especially for a long time, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, something's going to happen. You can't hold stress that long. You can't.
And I know it manifests sometimes physically.
Oh, yes.
Back pains and
that's right.
Pains, period.
Yeah, pains, negative thoughts, depression. So I mean, that's why it's so important to have practices and disciplines where you can just consciously be in a different space and just get there and not stay in a negative place for long at all. I
know you're getting ready to do some talks to Boys and Girls Clubs and so forth. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I've been with a nonprofit that a colleague of mine, Dr. Bruce Campellia, started. And he's been volunteering doing this for 3 years. We all have. So it's just getting off the ground. And we are using youth programs. I use one of mine on health and toxins. Actually, we'll start with, and we'll see where the energy programs go. But, and actually there's another woman that teaches positive thinking, and we're doing a yoga. So this is all beginning with, it's called One for Health. And they really have a passion for the future health of our children. And that's why Bruce started this. It's really a great cause to really shift. If you can shift a child that's not in a good place.
Just one child.
When he's 8 and 10, and that he remembers to do something like that and say, oh, no, he's not in a good place, and he can change himself and his life and his happiness, that's huge.
Are other countries doing things like this?
I have no idea.
I mean, I know in the East, they've been practicing yoga in India for thousands of years. Yeah,
well, you have the Ayurvedic ways of living, but it's, we all talk about the same things. That's, it's like another language, and we talk, so it's all in the same place of good health, good nutrition. Depends where, and if you're thinking good thoughts and you're in a good mind, sometimes, nutrition is less important. I hate to even say that, but it's
positive thoughts.
The thoughts are really huge. You can the thoughts are huge, like that.
Where do you want to see Boston Biofeedback, One for Health and so forth going?
Well, I love the youth, and I love working with them. When I see a client one-on-one, it's more retraining, rebalancing, coaching, nutritional coaching. And so my practice, I like to just help the children as well. And One for Health is, I see us developing programs to use everywhere.
Across the country.
Across the country, schools, and I think it's much needed. It's different than clinical nutrition alone. It's not like, okay, this is, when obesity is a huge problem. But I think if someone knows their thoughts and positive thinking, that all impacts
It's a more holistic approach.
It's the whole body-mind therapy. It's very different than, it is. It's a holistic approach to just being. And if you can change a habit, just a habit, a lifestyle habit, and tell them, you can change a life. They will change, even the cell phones, just knowing what that might do to them.
Just informing people.
Informing them, educating them, I hate to see what happens when studies come out in 20 or 30, 40 years and with the frequencies. We don't know yet.
Michelle, I love what you do. I know you know that. Hopefully more people will get connected, and just sitting here talking with you, I have a big smile just thinking positive thoughts.
That's right.
It makes such a difference. So thank you so much for being on Hometown Talents and Treasures.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's our show. Thanks so much for watching. And if there's someone or an organization you think should be featured on Hometown Talents and Treasures, email me at esternvajda@gmail.com. Remember, it can be anyone. The important thing is that they selflessly donate their talent and time to help others. See you next time.